reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. You're listening to Defiance Reporter on the MMO Reporter Network, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. And by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems.
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Defiance Reporter. I'm Ben, and with me is the lovely Michelle. Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm doing so good. I'm going to talk really fast because we've got to get through 2 episodes.
Isn't that fantastic? 2 episodes.
I love it. Remember, I was really worried last week when we did the podcast because I thought, no way can I handle 2 episodes worth of WTF moments. But I actually like this a lot. I think every week should be 2 episodes.
I'll take the 2 episodes every week if we're going to have a short season, but I really want the double episodes. I want more Defiance. Now, Granted, 2 episodes gives you 2 hours to play with a story, which I'm hoping next week is what they do. 1 overall story over 2 hours as opposed to 2 episodes back to back.
That would be ideal.
So yeah, there's trade-offs to whichever one you pick. But it was fun. I mean, I loved watching Defiance and then watching Defiance again and avoiding Dominion. Not that Dominion's bad, it's just after Defiance I usually want more, and this time I got it. So
we'll jump right in. Now, do you even recall, after 2 hours of Defiance, sometimes it's hard to recall the first episode. So especially when the second one's so good. So we'll walk through, we'll recap so that people remember. But the first episode, the Bottom of the World, episode 10, I believe, it was really easy to follow along. There wasn't actually that much happening in that episode as compared to the second one.
Felt more like Desperate Housewives of Defiance.
Yeah, exactly.
More a soap opera than sci-fi drama, and I don't know if I liked it or not. You're right. I believe you have the same feelings I do. It seemed like the story, was just a setup, and that was it. There was nothing really, really worth watching, except for maybe the coming of Pilar.
Exactly. Everything worth watching was basically in the last 5 minutes when we usually have a montage. And I mean, they did do some setup. So, okay, we go... The problem with that episode is the main point of the episode really wasn't setting anything up, really. So the whole episode involved around this collapse in the mines, which I just had a problem with because who sends all of their highest-ranking Earth Republic officials or officials to any government into, like, a mine that could collapse, things could happen, but you send all your officials down there. Like, maybe they just should have sent Tennedy and said, hey, you go along with Rafe. You'll be fine. We're talking about the episode 10, which really involved around that whole collapsed shaft, and it was really pretty much a collapsed shaft of an episode because that part, to me, wasn't as entertaining as some of the side stories that were going on. So we had Tennedy come into town. She's visiting the mines, I guess, to see how fast they're processing goulanite. This was just an excuse to bring Tennedy back to off her and have a mine collapse, it seemed. Which is fine.
Well, did you notice she had 2 husbands again? That was funny.
She did. And she replaced them in it was the exact same, like, makeup of her last 2 husbands. So she definitely has types as far as husbands go.
They very much matched the last husband's look. I almost did a double take. I was like, whoa, they're alive? No. But did
Urzu saved them?
I feel like Kevin Murphy missed out an opportunity for them to give a look because Amanda mentioned, oh, you replaced your husbands. Yeah. Or you got remarried with 2 more husbands. I don't remember what the line was, but she was like, yeah, and gave this, like, what of it attitude towards it, and the guys just didn't even notice. It was just standing around the back room, looking at the birds flying in the air, like, whatever. And I feel like that was a missed opportunity for a slight hint at humor there.
Yeah, an inside joke.
Especially for this episode that felt a little lacking in humor.
I agree. Maybe that's why it felt so stilted in a way. Because, I mean, granted, if you're stuck in a a mine shaft with Pottinger of all people. I mean, I guess it's not the funniest, but just usually Defiance is really good at gallows humor, and this was the perfect opportunity for that, and it didn't do that as much as I thought it would.
This episode was pretty depressing. Amanda actually kind of giving in at the end towards Pottinger, kind of opening up her feelings towards him.
Yeah, in her mouth. Like, what in the world was that about? I get it. I mean, you're stuck with, like, the last, man that you might ever suck face with, so fine. But even there, usually, in the past few episodes, both characters, Pottinger and Amanda, have been very interesting. And even here, when they're, near death, they didn't come off as interesting as they normally do. Maybe it's because they were tired. Maybe it's because they were out of oxygen. I don't know. But even the dialogue, I was just like, Pottinger, you're boring me. And normally he does not bore me at all.
Refresh my memory. I don't know if this was my imagination or not, but I'm pretty sure Amanda tried to give mouth-to-mouth to...
Pottinger?
No.
Oh, to Tennedy.
To Tennedy.
Yes, she did. Yes.
And then she turned around and she kissed Pottinger.
Yeah.
Is every guy just like, you know what? It's my last breath. I don't care what was in your mouth. Give me a kiss.
I guess so. On New Earth, you really can't be... Well, Pottinger can't be picky at all, right? I mean, he hasn't had any in a while. But I thought it was funny that Amanda tried to give Tennedy CPR, especially since she has a hurt arm. So how effective was she actually being?
And she got hit in the head by rocks. I mean...
Right. And the best part of it all was that Pottinger didn't offer to help at all. He's like, no, you injured woman with the already previously hurt arm, you try to save this woman. And then he just casually points out, oh, you don't see this gaping head wound? She's dead.
It took him a while to point it out. He was just like, yeah, go ahead, keep doing that. This is kind of hot.
Yeah. That actually is more believable to me. He was just being creepy.
Yeah.
That I can get with.
Tunnel collapse. Tennedy gets killed. Nolan and Berlin and Arissa manage to escape this collapse and go get help, and they're organizing this rescue.
Yeah, it's a good thing the lawkeeper, the one who's going to save everyone, escaped in the first place.
Now, what was the deal with Arissa and Nolan? Nolan just kind of arrested her and took all her stuff because she had a terrasphere.
Yeah, which is a dangerous object. I'm trying to compare the terrasphere to like something that a teenager could own nowadays, and the terrasphere is like I don't know, it's like the Snapchat of social media, like, no, actually it's not the Snapchat, but I just feel like it's a very dangerous thing for someone like Arissa to have right now. But the way he went about it, he just handcuffs her. First of all, he knows she's got godlike powers. Does he really think handcuffs are going to keep her in check?
Well, at this point, I don't think he knows what to do about her, how to handle her. She is so, and excuse my language, or maybe it's the appropriate language, but she feels so alien to him right now.
Yeah, that's a good one. She does, yeah. And we see that play out because it's in more ways than one, which I think it was the next episode that did this really, really well. That kind of alienation that she feels with him. But in the meantime, he's just, not only did he handcuff her, he also pulls her down into the mines, which could potentially be dangerous. She does manage to escape those handcuffs. Was anyone else kind of creeped out by the fact that she broke her own thumbs and then we watched them grow back?
No. We've seen worse. We've seen half her face off.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. For some reason, watching her thumb kind of pop back. See, I can't handle like popped joints, so maybe that's it. But watching her get out of that, I was just like, well, Nolan, you kind of knew this was coming.
It's props to the prop department, actually. That looked pretty believable and disgusting and painful all at the same time. It must have been the sounds, too, because it turned my stomach a little bit just to watch it. But I've seen worse, so it didn't bother me. Mm-hmm. But still. So she runs off with a terrasphere.
Yes, so she stole it in the first place, which did anyone else, I know you all caught this because you're all super fans, you caught the wanted poster of Doc Yule in the stairwell when Arissa was breaking in. That was fantastic. It also needs to be like the cover of like Doc Yule's album if she ever cuts one.
And she needs to change her Twitter picture to just that. Those of you who were paying attention last week, we went ahead and talked about the whole Defiant Few missions and the whole what's going on in the Bay Area. And then we actually got to see it come into play here. Last week we found out that Berlin managed to capture a rogue Votanus Collective spy assassin agent arrest him and take the Terrasphere. And that's why they had it in lockup. So I thought that was a wonderful tie-in to what's going on outside the world of Defiance, the show.
That is very cool. And I'm still, because you mentioned that in the last podcast, and I kept thinking to myself, Berlin arrest this person? For some reason, Berlin is just able to do all of these extra things besides just make movies, which I find rather endearing and also very convenient.
Well, because that's just she's just a royal badass. I mean,
she is. She's just a cool girl all the way around.
Okay, now I mentioned this on Twitter. I want Berlin, I want Tommy, and I want Quentin all to have their own comic book series, or miniseries even. I don't care if it's 6 issues long, but I want a comic book about their adventures, especially Quentin, traveling across the Badlands to rescue his mother, finding out that she's been captured, and having to work for the Botanist Collective to get her free. There's a lot of potential for storytelling there.
That would be really, really cool. And if they ever do another miniseries, like Defiance miniseries, that would also be good subject line for something like that. Yeah. Because also it would maybe give us some context to what Quentin has been through, because he comes back and honestly he's acting crazy to me. He's just acting like a spoiled, weird little brat. And I get his trauma, I get it, but his loyalties are a little misplaced to me.
Well, if you think about it, Quentin has had quite an ordeal since we've started Defiance in the first place. I mean, he ended up killing somebody, you know?
Right, because he found the key in the first place.
And then he's cornered by Nikki and said, I know exactly what you did. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. It must have been you. And he's freaked the fuck out. And then he goes and he runs off.
Yeah, finds his mom. She's been traumatized. He doesn't really know her, probably. This is why you're right. I need to get some Quentin exposition going on here.
Oh, and then I'm going to add to it, because chat room's mentioning it, Rin miniseries, absolutely, but also Alethea.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Alethea in the second part of this episode.
Yeah, she comes in and is kind of, a badass too.
So, let's go back to the story. We've got the mind collapse issue. We've got Amanda and Pottinger in a shaft. We have Nolan and Berlin trying to rescue them. We've got Arissa running off, trying to coerce Tommy into getting a Terrasphere for her, because she couldn't do it.
Tommy, once again, I need help with his logic. So Arissa comes to him, and she says, hey, remember what the Votans did to me? They put something inside me, and it makes me sick, and guess what? The Terrasphere will cure me. And Tommy's just like, okay. Is he that in love with her?
To his credit, he did kind of question it first, but yes, he's in love with her. You don't question it, you just do it. The woman that I love is in trouble. I have to come to her aid. And that's exactly what's going through his mind. So what he did was teenage puppy love. He just did it.
And he trusts her. He does really, trust her. Like, love is blind, or love blinds you, or I'm trying to make a new quote out of the old quote. But basically, he's blind to any lies that she's telling him. Because she was manipulating him. I think that was my problem with that scene. The way Arissa is in these past couple of episodes, sometimes I can't tell whether it's Arissa speaking, like if Arissa's still in there somewhere, or if Kaziri. It's Urzu. Yeah, if it's the Kaziri Urzu just being manipulative. And that's when I felt really sorry for Tommy.
Well, but you hit the nail right on the head. We can't tell when one stops and the other begins. It's almost like a melding. You can't find Arissa in there. And it's becoming difficult, because later in that episode, or was it the next episode? He goes into the tent, and Nolan goes into the tent, and he's yelling with his daughter, and she's got such fierce emotions about this topic, and she comes at him like a teenage daughter, like a daughter would against her father. It was powerful, it was emotional, it was great, but was it Arissa? How much of that was Arissa and how much of it was the Kaziri? The lines are so blurred right now, you cannot tell.
And that was brilliant. That was one of my favorite scenes of both episodes, is that scene. Just because so many things played into it. It does what science fiction does best, and that it uses what's going on in the plot to kind of speak to other kinds of things that happen in real life and in real relationships. And it was done so beautifully. And so maybe you're right. Maybe if you look at it in that light, what she said to Tommy and the way Tommy's reacting to her is just kind of more of that ambiguous, we don't really know who Arissa is, and that just makes it all the more tragic how the episode ends, because this episode, I think I'm on the right timeline, ends with Arissa saving, I'm using air quotes, Tommy by, tendriling him, giving him a tendril job, so to speak.
You mean deep-throating him?
Deep-throating him all the way, yes.
Yeah, that's the other thing, though. That's where we come into that line where whether or not this is Irissa or this is the Kaziri. I'm saving you by killing you.
Yeah, and there are so many good religious machine god dynamics, and the next that this episode is kind of leading up to for the doll parts episode. So that without the mind collapse, like without all of that, I think the Arissa, Tommy, Nolan storyline could have just stood on its own, because the only thing we got out of the mind collapse was that Amanda, in some desperate move, kisses Pottinger. She learns nothing new about Pottinger, so there was nothing actually uncovered during that moment.
Except for his admission at the end saying, that stuff I said about me being awful, that's true. That was it. But we all already knew that.
Right, and Amanda's probably thinking oh yeah, sure, you're awful. You lotion your hands every night before bed, or it's. But
no, there's an underlying genius to that, okay? And Pottinger, he knows Amanda is attracted to wounded men, to wounded psyches. She wants to fix people, and he knows that, so he's playing on it by dropping subtle hints and leaving the mystery huge and ambiguous so that she comes after him, and it worked. You saw that at the end of the episode.
Yeah. She literally ran after him. I was like, what is wrong with you, woman? She left Nolan and was just like, yeah, I'm going to run after him. But you're right. He knows that Amanda likes to be, I like your terminology that she likes to fix people, because I was going to say that she's kind of bossy and she likes to be in control of things and other people, because, Lord knows she can't exactly control herself sometimes. She's so tightly wound. Well, that's an interesting theory.
And it's sad, too, because she also found out practically that same moment, that her and... Oh, no, that was next episode. See, 2 episodes back-to-back is making me blur, okay? But we find out next episode that Berlin and Nolan are no longer knocking boots, and she immediately flips back to Nolan.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I loved that scene, too, in that next episode. And I also like the one with... Nolan and Berlin when they're kind of shimmying down that shaft tunnel, and just kind of, very adult-like, they decide, you know what, maybe we shouldn't have sex with each other anymore.
Yeah, but they also decide that, 1, while falling down a shaft together, and 2, giving each other the smoochy eyes.
Yeah, this is after Nolan has complimented Berlin's eyebrows back up before the mind collapse, which was some kind of weird, flirtation.
It's not weird. It's when you start having feelings for somebody, you start noticing the little things, and you start mentioning those, and they become endearing to that person. It's touching. It's, hey, he's not just looking at me, he's looking at me.
Yeah, he's not just spitting game. And her eyebrows do look fantastic. I mean, they're very coiffed, I have to say.
I don't think there's much about Berlin that doesn't look fantastic. So
true.
I mean, she's
so mature.
She can rock a solid uniform dress.
Right? Oh my gosh, a pencil skirt uniform. She looked like she could be chasing bad guys or teaching a DUI class. It was the perfect combination of the two. I didn't know what to do with myself.
To me, I feel like if they ever did one of those Warehouse 13 episodes where they switch genres around, she could totally fall into a noir, no problem.
Oh, definitely. She could fall into a noir, and Amanda could fall into a Perry Mason type. Absolutely perfect. So they've got, Nolan, Berlin, everyone comes to, I guess, so the mind collapse was kind of the collapse, a symbolic collapse is of everyone's kind of emotional shield that they've put up this entire season. So Nolan realizes that, hey, maybe I actually like Amanda, and Tommy realizes, well, wait a second, I really love Arissa. I'll do anything for her. So maybe that's all kind of symbolic, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I can get with that. But then during this episode, so a big setup in this episode for the next one is the Treasure Doll, Alack, Christie triangle, which is slowly progressing. It's been progressing over probably 3 or 4 episodes now.
I can't stand Treasure Doll. I'm going to say that right now. I just could not stand her. I felt like she was worse than the Tars.
I call her, when I recap, I call her treasure troll, just because she's just constantly trolling for like attention or, a like. She is just, I just find her desperate. And so I actually feel kind of sorry for her.
Well, okay. Yeah, it was situational. She grew up wanting, never having. She finds somebody, and it's typical gold digger relationship type. She wants his power, she wants his money, she wants to be taken care of, and who doesn't? Mm-hmm. But we were made to believe in the second episode that she actually fell for him. She fell in love with Alak. And I guess Defiance was trying to make me feel sorry for her, but her motives, it's okay. I had conflicting emotions. I do not like Treasure Doll, but I did feel sorry for her.
Yeah, and if she was the only... So imagine if all of the women on Defiance acted like a treasure doll of sorts, I think we would all be really kind of upset. And so she's like the worst tropes that women fall into. Like, you're not sure of her motives. Does she want love? Does she want money? She wants to be taken care of? Like, who knows what she wants? All she knows is she's going to go crazy on whoever gets in the way of, like, her dream to be taken care of. So really, that's just an archetype that's kind of boring and kind of a problem. They made it interesting because they threw Christy in there, who up until now has not been the most interesting character. She's been very sweet, and then kind of halfway through the season she started, cosplaying and kind of emulating Stama, and now these 2 episodes, I feel like she just flipped her entire character.
What's wonderful about it is you can see in the second episode, wow, we really should finish the first episode, but you can see in the second episode how Christy and Treasure Doll were of the same mind towards Alek. They had the same thoughts, the same methodology. They just had different backgrounds. So their end game was for different reasons. And
that makes a lot of sense.
It was very much black and white, good versus evil, without it being good and evil. It was just polar opposites. They were reflections of each other.
That's really good. Perfect mirrors of kind of dealing with the going after kind of the same dream. That's really good. I can buy that a lot, actually. And then did you have a moment when you saw Stama listening in to... Wait, is this episode? Yes, it is. When you saw Stama listening in to Alak and Treasure Doll's conversation, where you were like, thank God this will finally end.
I had that moment, and you know what? I, like everybody else, thought Stama did it. And then she came after Daytag, and I was like, okay, well, if she didn't do it and Daytag didn't do it, and then my light bulb went on at the same time as Stama's did, and it was a very strange feeling for me.
Did you do the laugh with her then?
Almost. I had to stop short because she started laughing. I was like, whoa, that's creepy. I'm stopping. It was just great. I loved that reaction Stama had because you know what? Christy is becoming a little Castathan, a Casty Mama.
Oh my gosh, I am going to coin that, or you coined that term, but I'm going to take it and use it at Dragon Con, and that's how I'm going to greet every woman that I meet.
Hey, Casty Mama.
Yeah, hey, hot little Casty Mama.
Wow, that sounds like a bad pickup line.
I know. Just call me Nolan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had that same feeling, but okay, I won't gloat until we get to the next episode, but I think I made a prediction the last podcast, and I believe I was right for the first time ever.
Ooh.
So...
Ooh, I must have missed that. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up this episode, and then we'll get to that, because I'll definitely let you gloat.
So the last thing for this episode was really Quentin being like a little spoilsport and framing his own father for the Votan Trembler that he planted in the mines. I found this whole storyline really interesting, despite my distaste for Quentin's actions. Like, he completely threw Rafe under the bus. First of all, he did this whole kill Tenedy, collapse the mines, because he wanted to get Pilar out of that Votan monastery. And so he made these deals.
That's the thing, though, is he is doing it for a reason. I mean, it's almost like he's forced into doing it. So...
Yeah, which that's why... If we had more, like, I can sympathize with him because I know why he's doing it. He really wants his mom to come back to Defiance, like he wants to be with her. And so I found that all believable. What was really weird, and now I get his motives, but the fact that he would just how did he know that Rafe had those weapons in the first place? Because Rafe was going... Well, I guess he knew because he was working with the Votans. First of all, I was confused as to how, since Rafe was just now showing Quentin where he was keeping all of his weapons, how did Quentin know where he was keeping all of his weapons in order to steal that Trembler to put in the mines?
He had to have known beforehand. He must have been following Rafe. I mean, come on. Quentin had a clone of Kenya. It's not just him. He's working for the Votanus Collective, so whatever spies are in town, they're working with him. He knows about the weapons. The Votanus Collective supplied Rafe with those weapons.
Yeah, and someone probably just handed it over to Quentin anyway. And for him to... Okay, another thing that's kind of annoying about the way the whole crime-solving process in Defiance works is that so Quentin just says... Oh, well, okay, Quentin tells the E-Reps, like, hey, this guy, my dad, just confessed to doing this. And that everyone's like, oh, okay, great, that means he totally did it. And I guess Rafe did wake up and then corroborate the story, but nothing sat right with me. I wasn't sure why Rafe was doing what he was doing.
Because Rafe has one thought in his mind, and that is the safety of his children. He has always had that thought. That is the driving force behind this man. So taking care of Quentin is his end goal.
I mean, you're right. He did that with Christy. He didn't want her to marry Alak. He was dead set against it, and then he ended up kind of rolling over and was fine with it. And I guess at some level, maybe he knows that Quentin is actually doing this for a reason. And so whatever reason that is, Rafe needs to let him work that out. And you know, Nolan, I liked the end when Nolan was just like, fine, I'll arrest you, even though I don't believe you.
Nobody buys Quentin's story. I mean, he doesn't sell it. Like Rafe said, you could never look me in the face when you were lying.
Yeah, which means this is all going to blow up in the next, like, couple of episodes.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is Rafe going to stay in jail? Are they going to keep him locked up, or what's going to happen?
Poor Rafe. I feel so bad for that guy. He cannot catch a break. And he's actually done nothing wrong. You know, it's so funny. All the people in Defiance who continually do wrong, Stama, Daytak, Docule, they're like fine and free. And then poor Rafe, who actually hasn't really done anything, and he ends up in jail.
He's always covering for his children. Always.
Yeah, what a good guy. What a good dad.
When Christy and Alak went together, he had Alak beaten up to get him set straight about the family business.
Yeah.
And when Quentin ended up killing Mr. Birch, he told his father, and his father backed him up. I mean, it's always been about family for Rafe, so he's only ever gotten in trouble because of his family.
That's true, which means now that Pilar's back, so the saving grace of this episode was the final few minutes when, holy crap, Linda Hamilton gets out of that, Votan vehicle. And number one, the Votans deliver really quickly on their promise. So I love how, as soon as all of this is done, she just kind of shows up right away to tie things up. But I loved that she was not happy with Quentin. I liked that she was being protective of Rafe and their family.
Yeah, well, because you have to think that she's still the same woman. She's still the mom. She just happened to have a bad episode when she was trying to kill Quentin.
Yeah, and now she's had now she's been separated from them, and she still has that same drive going, that same motherly love, which I just loved it when she slapped him. It was just like, you're so stupid, like, why would you do that?
She's very much a mother, and you know what? I've been wanting to do that to Quentin since he got back into Defiance, and her doing it just made me feel a whole lot better. But yeah. You have to appreciate the fact that she still kind of she wants her son to respect her husband because that is his father. There's this set in stone family values. No matter what ordeal she's been through, no matter how much she's changed, that remains the same.
Did you notice she had 3 braids in her hair?
No, I didn't.
So it's triple the braids of justice. So I don't know what's going to happen between her and Amanda. Her and Stama, who I can't wait for those two to meet. That will be pretty fun, I think. So, and sadly, they did not meet in the next episode. That was kind of...
I think they're holding Pilar for something awesome because, she is Linda Hamilton. She's Sarah Connor. She's got to come out and pull some badass gun and save the day. We'll see what happens. I don't anticipate her doing that, but I really, really want her to. I want my sci-fis to cross over.
She's got to do something big. But one thing I noticed, so I know we want the next 2 episodes to be kind of like we want them to feel like one big episodic kind of arc. But one thing I noticed with these 2 episodes, episode 10 and 11, is that they both had very distinct feels to them. So yeah, episode 10 did set up a lot of things for episode 11, but the way they were directed, the way the stories were told, felt totally different. And I thought Doll Parts, the last episode that we saw, was just narratively a lot better. The storytelling was just so good that it might be one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, I was immediately happy when I found out Treasure Doll was dead. So yeah, it was a great episode for me.
And you got it in like the first 2 minutes. You had it basically like an opening scene.
I had a smile the entire episode.
Yeah, maybe I'm a sucker for like detective noir, lame cop.
Me too.
Television, but I thought it was just so much fun the way they did that first person kind of point of view with her when she opened the door, and then Nolan's pulling out his inner geek squad and trying to, I'm like, what is he doing? Like he's putting together all these parts. I had no idea what he was doing.
Did they teach him that while he was at EREP or something? I mean, that's or I'm sorry, EMC. He was EMC before it was EREP.
Yeah. And that was like next level kind of stuff, but I actually have a few qualms with what he knew about the Kaziri that we can kind of talk about, because it seems like he knows almost a lot more than we do about what's happening to Arissa.
I think he's under the assumption that the Kaziri works a lot like the Ego unit, and he would be right. He would definitely be right, but he also remembers from when Sukar was infected, so it kind of works the same way with that as well. And I guess if you've gone through an ordeal like Sukar, and throwing him off the arch, which, by the way, is a popular killing site, apparently.
Clearly.
He'd probably go over it in his mind whenever he's got, a moment of quiet and be like, well, how could I have done this better? How would I stop this the next time? He is a cop.
Yeah.
So.
And he did I have to give him credit, he did, figure this out. So we set up this whole, intro scene with someone has killed Treasure Doll, no one knows who. Although I put my sights on Christy for a couple of weeks now, so I'm so excited that I got it right, because I never get anything right, ever, on Defiance. And so I got that.
I had the sneaky suspicion that it was Christy, but then my hindbrain came back and was like, no, she's too sweet.
They wouldn't do that. Stama will handle it.
Exactly.
That's why this episode was so good, because you've basically got 2 whodunits going on in one, whodunit. So not only is Amanda trying to figure out which of the Tars committed this horrid crime, but the Tars themselves are trying to figure out which of them committed this horrid crime. And it's so funny and ironic the way they did that. It was brilliant.
No, you know what the irony is? The fact that a Tar did do it.
That's true, that it was like a human woman that did it. It was like
it was a Tar that nobody thinks of. Because she's still Macaulay to people. No, she's a Tar.
That's true.
She's starting to act like one.
The Marilyn Munster of the family, totally did. Just so well done. And then, I had my doubts when I knew that Amanda was going to be made lawkeeper. First of all, the way that scene went down, it was so Amanda and so Nolan. Like, Amanda comes in and starts bossing him around. Like, why aren't you doing your job? What's going on? And he brushes her off, generally like, Nolan does, because he has bigger fish to fry.
But you know what's funny, though? It's when we were looking for Kenya 2 episodes back, he was like, it's your personal stuff. I'm not supposed to be looking out for your personal stuff. I need to be doing my job. And in this episode, he was like, I have personal stuff. I can't do my job right now. It's like, what the freak, Nolan?
Yeah, I'm with you, and that's why I think that, remember someone, I think it was Kevin Murphy, used to say that Amanda does the smart thing even when it's not always right or something, and Nolan does the right thing when it's not always smart, but that's not true. Nolan just he's so driven by emotion. He's not this pragmatic, rational character. He's truly driven by his feelings, I think.
And not just his feelings, but I think his feelings towards Arissa. That blowout scene in the tent laid down a lot of, or opened up a lot of issues that were always there that nobody talked about, and it's very much true. He gave up his life in the military. He defected the military to raise an Arathian girl.
Oh, gosh, tear.
Okay, if you're a military man, that's almost death, okay?
Yeah. And for someone like Nolan, who, I mean, he doesn't seem like the parenting type. So the fact that he found this love towards this Arathian girl and uprooted his life, I think both of them have made so many sacrifices over the years, and that's why that scene was so well done, because each of them is dealing with kind of their own very separate feelings about their relationship, and God, it just made you want to have like Dr. Phil or someone right in the middle of that tent.
And that brings up the whole issue again about where the lines are blurred between Orissa and the Kaziri. You can tell that some of those issues were definitely legitimate issues that Orissa had, and you could also hear the Kaziri talking for her. When it came to Nolan killing Votans all the time, killing Votans, he's just a death machine. I don't see that. I mean, granted, yes, he kills Votans, but there's always a reason. Always.
Yeah, there's a reason, and, it was a war going on, so, he is known as No Man Nolan, the Yosemite massacre, but
Orissa wasn't exposed to that Nolan of the war. She was exposed to Nolan defecting from the army. So she never witnessed him always killing Arathians. He just busts in and kills everybody at that ritual. He went in and he killed one of the VC cult members. I cannot remember his name. The one that was chasing after Orissa in the first...
Yeah, in the first season.
He killed a Casty boy who was training a sharpshooter or a sniper rifle at Amanda. He killed Votans. I mean, yeah, he kills... There's no question he's a killing machine. But there's always been a reason. There's
some sort of redemption quality about him to all of that. So, yes, everyone has their faults. Like, no one on New Earth, no one in Defiance is perfect at all. It's like Urzu, the Kaziri, is taking advantage of the fact that Orissa holds him to a higher standard because she loves him. So she expects a lot more from him. And it's just so manipulative. That virus or whatever's inside her is just using that and empowering this kind of misplaced fear, hatred. And it's so interesting. It's so well done. I love it.
Thanks, Rissy, in the chat room. His name was Daigo.
Ah, yeah, Daigo.
Daigo, who could switch personalities on a drop of a dime. I mean, that was a really good character. I'm very sad they killed him off right away, but you know what? It was a smart choice because there's not a lot of room in Season 2 for extra exposition, honestly. So that was definitely a character I would have loved to have explored. But this whole scene that we're talking about takes place in the tent of Orissa's camp of resurrected disciples. All of them being led to this spot by the Kaziri for the Kaziri ship. You notice they're parked right above where the Kaziri ship was. And you don't realize how massive this town is or this camp is until you see the future scene where she's using the Arc Core, or the Terrasphere, and encapsulating her chosen and sinking them down to the ship in the sleeping pods.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that was like in the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Such a cool scene. I love that they finally give us something about what's going on and what's happening here. And I liked the tent scene between Orissa and Nolan. I liked Nolan's idea. I thought it was very smart, and it ties into the overall storyline that he's going to scramble, because he's like, this is, AI, this is artificial intelligence. I'm just going to scramble the signal. And I liked that he did that. I liked that, he reeled Tommy in.
Let's go back. Let's talk about Tommy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Tommy was deep-throated.
Yeah.
A day later, he upchucks the deep throat. He gets rid of these tendrils in his system. Okay, we had the theory that the Kaziri would not work in humans, that it would only work in Votans, and this proved that. Yeah. But I thought when the Kaziri went into you, technically you died.
Well, okay, but do we know that? Because everyone else died, or we thought they died, but maybe they actually don't die. Maybe maybe the Kaziri takes you to the brink of death, and then you're she harvests your soul or whatever's left, so you don't actually die. Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to give them some leeway here.
Your body's being overrun by this alien tentacle thing that heals you, that knits your body, that goes and courses through your body. That's got to do some untold damage to the innards. It's just,
Yeah, Tommy didn't even like cough up any blood or anything. He was just like, it's like he just like,
Bad
had a
spaghetti.
bad hangover. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even food poisoning is worse than that. That's so true.
It was so unbelievable. He just upchucked it, and it didn't turn into anything but a pile of tendrils. It looks like just noodles on the floor, silvery noodles. I would have expected the damn thing to start crawling away like a freaking spider or something, you know?
Yeah, do something a little different.
It's a live entity, or unless human body systems kill it.
Which, if they actually use that, so if they use maybe what was a mistake and kind of like a kind of a plot hole, if they use that to then the next few episodes as a way to kind of get rid of this, that would be really awesome. But if they don't,
I don't think they will. It's a useless piece of information. It's fun, but it's useless.
See, I was so excited. I think I was so caught up in the moment of, oh my God, we were, everyone was right. They don't want humans. That I wasn't even thinking about the fact that, well, now wait a second. Because really, if this is all true, then Tommy was only kept around to help flick Nolan's switch to scramble the devices. And I know he had to get all the Votans kind of into the tent in one place, but I just felt that whole thing was just an excuse to see Sukar and Nolan fight each other.
It was, and it was such a glorious excuse because it was a great fight. Okay, I'm not into men, but hot damn, Sukar looks good.
Yes, especially in feathers. Oh my God, his arms, he just exudes power. And my favorite part of that whole scene was when Nolan was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that instant healing thing. Oops. And then, Tommy can't get the switch to work. I was just like, okay, guys, like, we know it's going to work. Like, he couldn't get his, like, remote control car remote to work.
Remember how I said last episode, and the episode before that, that Tommy cannot get a break?
Yeah, he really can't.
That brother cannot get a break. Not one.
He really can't. And I thought after, he'd been tendrilled, almost to death, that then we would be done with trying to kill Tommy. I really thought, we've done this before. How many times can we try and kill this dude? And then, lo and behold, at the end of the episode,
he gets shot.
Yeah. Oh, did she shoot him? I still was unclear on how. I forget how for a minute I thought she stabbed him, but she didn't have any knives left.
Yeah, stabbed him. You're right. She stabbed him.
Okay.
Remember they were kissing and then the knife went in between the ribs or went straight to the liver? Or, she should be more efficient at killing by now. She should know her anatomy.
Maybe the fine line between Orissa and Urzu, she doesn't actually want to kill him. Now I'm just making excuses for her, but...
Yeah, that's making up excuses, because honestly, I don't buy it. If Urzu's or the Kaziri's taken over that much, I think that it's taken over quite enough. It's going to be one heck of a battle at the last episode for her to take her mind back. Which brings me up to my question here. Is this an apocalypse scenario? Is this the story of the apocalypse, with humanity being wiped from the face of the earth and the Votans having their coming of Christ, which would be the Kaziri? Or is this more World War II and fighting off Hitler?
No, I think the way that they're... Well, it depends. If you ask Tommy, then it's, apocalypse. If you ask Nolan, it's World War II and Hitler. Because he seems to think that this can all just be... Well, at the beginning of the episode, he seems to think that this can all just be taken care of. It's just a computer. He's like Doc Yule. He's not buying into that Urzu religion stuff. But I think by the end of the episode, when he's dragging Tommy's body on that sled back towards Defiance, I think he might be leaning towards Rapture. And I think that's... I almost don't want the series to go that route. I'd rather them go in a more machine-like direction or something, I don't know, more Matrix-y. I'm not sure, but...
Well, because right now it's setting up very much like Rapture, where we got Orissa playing the role of the coming of Christ and picking up her people and taking them to heaven, which is actually down below into a ship, and then hurting the wicked. Not hurting the wicked. In the apocalypse stories, it's not the Jesus Christ figure that punishes the wicked, but it's Satan and his demons and overrunning, whatever. I'm not going to give you a religious lesson. But there's also the whole Hitler aspect, where Hitler was trying to call the human race into only the best and brightest, only the perfect race, And that's kind of what it feels like here. Erissa's getting rid of all humans and going just for Votans, and not just all Votans, but the Votans that she's infected, who have been cleansed and pure.
Yeah, who've been saved, so to speak. Well, now, okay, what throws this all so interesting, and what makes me lead a little bit towards Apocalypse, or maybe it's just a perfect mixture of both, is that this Kaziri, this ship, has been around since, eons ago. And it ran off of these types of souls, I think, or this machinery, I'm not sure. That's what it initially ran on. So it's like they're just trying to get it running again. But I guess what I don't understand is why the initial plan was for the Kaziri to wipe out human life initially. Like, they just wanted the planet for themselves.
Well, when the Kaziri ship came down, the goal was to terraform the planet before the arrival of all the Ark ships. It was the start of the Votan race again. It was the start of bringing the Votans to a new home planet, and this would be their planet. They did not expect humans to be there. And we've heard this throughout the history of the show. We've seen it on the Defiance site. We've seen it in the wikis. We've discussed it over and over again. The Votans did not know humanity existed. When the Kaziri landed, it was about 800 BC, and we see that in the preview for next week. And they did not expect humanity. There was life forms on the planet that were intelligent. I mean, it was only 800 BC. Okay? It wasn't like we were cavemen. We were already establishing governments and religion, and we may not have been completely bright, but we were there and we were doing things. And so Erissa and her partner decide to stop the ship from terraforming the planet. And that's the right call.
Right.
So the Kaziri, which is a computer ship, the ship's computer, is still running on its basic programming from, oh my god, ages ago.
Yeah, which, gosh, I wish like Mac or Apple would make a product like that. I could use it for like thousands of years. But see, that's what's so... I cannot wait for the next 2 episodes.
I'm changing the name of the Kaziri to Kasiri.
Kasiri. Oh, because...
Siri.
Because like...
Apple.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is amazing. Kasiri.
Siri's taking over the world.
I'm totally taking that. And it sounds like she sometimes gets confused. Just like the real Siri. That is so funny. But what's... So Erissa, or what looks like Erissa on the ship, what's so backwards is that they actually stopped all this from happening, and now this Erissa, or whoever's harvested Erissa, is kind of almost getting revenge, or reversing what they did. What? She's coming back and saying, no, you took over my ship, now I'm righting things. I'm putting things back the way they were supposed to be.
The discovery of the Kaziri and everything that's going on and how this all started, how this was triggered, the finale of Season 1, makes you really take everything into perspective. Ever since the Votans landed, the Votanus Collective and other people who wanted this world for themselves have been trying and trying and trying to take it from us. Mm-hmm. And it was us. It was our fault initiating the Kaziri back up and now starting this chain reaction of destruction. We did it unwittingly, but we did it. Doc Ewell was in on the plan from the beginning. She knew what they were looking for, what the Kaziri ship would do, and she had a change of heart and became human, let's just say.
Yeah.
It just puts everything into perspective as far as what Nikki was doing, what Doc Ewell was doing, what Birch was doing, why they were doing it, and what was going on. Season 1 is coming back into perspective because of what's going on right now in Season 2.
Which is such good storytelling. That's such good sci-fi. It's like, this is why we need a Season 3, because everything has been planned out. Like, everything's tying together in ways that, it's really kind of hard to do sometimes in television shows. We'll see Doc Ewell, she wasn't around this episode, which I think maybe these 2 episodes, which was really disheartening, but she'll be back.
Yeah, she'll play a bigger part in the last 2 episodes, I'm sure. Right now, she's hiding.
She's underneath Old St. Louis, probably just like going over her notes in her head so she can save herself and hopefully save the planet. So all this, it's so funny that all this is happening. It's just like the real world, I guess, but all of this is going on with the Kaziri and Erissa and Nolan, and kind of, unbeknownst to them, or unbeknownst to like the Tars, who are going through their own predicament, I love these parallel storylines that, everyone's kind of in his or her own world in Defiance in a way.
Well, and
They're
that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a
and
problem.
everyone has little bits of knowledge, too, that could potentially really help save the world, but they're not.
Everybody's got their own corner of drama. They've got their own issues to deal with. Nobody's coming together and sharing information because information is power, and whoever has information wields it. And there's such a bigger issue going on just outside the town, and that's Orissa and her camp. It makes everything else seem petty. Like the death and murder of Treasure Doll is boring compared to Nolan trying to save the town without them even knowing, and possibly the rest of the world.
Which also plays into the religious kind of apocalypse aspect, because everyone else is caught up in their own mini drama. Even Amanda, who's like, no, this is what's important. Like, this is what you need to be focusing on, Nolan. And Nolan kind of, he doesn't realize he's looking at the bigger picture. He's focused on his daughter, but even he's kind of on this kind of savior arc storyline here, unwittingly, I think, and, reluctantly. But he's the one that's kind of above all of this. It's just really intricate storytelling. And even the fact that Amanda took the lawkeeper badge, or kind of, demanded it, and is focused on finding Treasure Doll's killer. As far as a storytelling device goes, at first I was kind of leery. I was just like, okay, well, clearly they just need someone to solve this while Nolan is busy doing this narrative plot. But they really sold it with the flashbacks. I thought it was really well done.
The flashbacks made me feel sorry for Treasure Doll. They really did. Had conflicting emotions about her and her situation, and made me hate Amanda a little more for just giving some honest advice, which was true honest advice, but Treasure Doll went and corrupted it, gave it new meaning, and it was terrible. I was so mad at Amanda for even giving her that idea, because it's an impressionable teenager. Don't tell her that.
Right, especially when you're drunk. Like, clearly you're going through something on... I agree with you, and I loved it, because I like things that bring Amanda down a peg, since she's sometimes so kind of Pollyanna type A. I love it when she makes huge mistakes like this. It just, I just love that.
I mean, I guess we don't know when we're helping a psychotic person, and
right.
And Treasure Doll was definitely the single white female, I think.
Also, the fact that Berlin was her buddy cop, essentially, in this episode, perfect. Who knew that those two had such kind of crime-solving chemistry? I think they need to be town lawkeepers together in season 3. They did a fantastic job. So that whole crime-solving, I like this much better than the way Defiance usually goes about solving its crimes. I thought it was much more entertaining, and so they did that very well. But let's talk about the TARS. Like, holy crap, they have got a lot of family dynamics going on. Alak does think that Stama set him up, because Christy hides the bloody microphone under Alak's bed, of all places to hide it.
Let's talk about the sequence of events that led up to our questioning of all of them. Mm-hmm. First, we thought Alak did it, because you know what? He's no stranger to death yet, but we also thought he was kind of weak to pull it off himself, because we saw the last time he tried to kill somebody and it didn't go off without a hitch. Right. So, there's that. And then we turn around and we notice that Stama overheard their conversation, and she was the likely candidate. Everybody thought, oh, Stama, you go and fix that. We know you're going to go fix that. Just go take care of your boy. That's what you do. And it wasn't her.
I know.
When did you think it wasn't her?
Well, see, I had long harvested this notion because I watched these previews incessantly, and I remember seeing something a while ago where Christy looks like she was just going ape-stack in the top of the arch, and so that stuck with me. But throughout this episode, if I was like, just watching it and I had not obsessively looked at all these previews, I mean, I would have thought Stama did it basically up until she was confronted with the bloody microphone from the handmaiden. Remember the handmaiden's just like cleaning house, and she's like, hey, you might want to take care of this. I don't know what's going on with your son.
I didn't believe her and her ignorance until well after she was questioning Daytech, because she knows how to play a story. But then I realized, why would she even go to Daytech if she did it? With a handmaiden, she would have just played cool and said, you know what, I have no idea where that came from.
That's true. That's a good point. And she did go to Daytak, because I'm sure in her mind she's thinking, okay, Daytak, I told you to kill her, but I did not tell you to frame our son. Like, why would you do that? Unless, I'm sure she was thinking, unless Daytak was trying to set me up and make Alak think that I set him up. There's just so many corrupt family dynamics going on. It was fantastic. I just love how Daytak was just totally sure that Stama did it and like had thought maybe once or twice about it and was like, yeah, she did it. That's fine.
Do you love how low Daytak is on the totem pole right now?
Yeah, and Tony's playing it so kind of off the cuff that it's pretty fantastic.
It's just seeing him like not even hiding the fact that he didn't do it, or when he didn't believe Stama about Kenya still being dead and still going along with it. It's just, he's so nonchalant right now. He's like, you know what? I'm in this place. I accept it for now. I will climb out of this pit, but not right now. And come at me, bro, because I don't care.
Yeah, if anything, and which is kind of cool for his character because he's grown a lot. Like, he's the guy, same guy last season, that if you questioned his pride at all or you nudged him in any way, he would go crazy on you. And now he's just so, I don't even think he's reached such a low point. I think he's just kind of recalculating, which I find kind of fun. Even for him to allow, he did kind of, when Amanda was interrogating him, he did kind of show some of his old kind of pride, but Amanda still got the last word in that regard, especially when, Daytak kind of, he didn't necessarily let anything slip, but Amanda, with her powers of, recall, was able to put two and two together about Alak and Treasure Doll, which I thought was pretty smart of her.
Wow. I mean, and then the realization at the very end, how awesome was it when we discovered that it was Christy, when Stama giggled so uncontrollably, maniacally pleased, pleasantly. She giggled pleasantly. She didn't giggle like she did for Rafe. No, this was fulfilling. This is so satisfying. I felt her satisfaction. I felt her relief, and I felt her surprise, and it was a wonderful surprise. It wasn't a where did this come from? No, it was a pleasant surprise. Christy.
They did the arc so well. They've kind of been leading up. They've really grown Christy kind of progressively over this course of this season. And I like that they're not only, because I like that they're doing a two-pronged approach. So Christy's getting stronger. She's about to be a mother. She's got a cast, kind of a half cast at the inside of her. So, who knows what her hormones are going through. Like, it's probably way crazier than, someone who's just pregnant with a human baby. But she's got that going on, but also she's wanting to learn how to be Cassithan, and she's emulating Stama. And when you put those two together, like Mama Bear plus Stamatar, you're going to get basically someone who kills a whore and throws them off the arch. Like, that's what that's going to amount to. And then I like that they actually went back and showed how it all went down, which normally, once you figured something out, you're like, okay, I figured it out. I don't really need to watch it happen. But they made it so weirdly fun with like that poison Plan B juice that they were giving Christy. Like, they just made it so much fun. And that fight scene I thought was really well done. And it's nice to see Christy fight.
Let me bring up a couple things. One, Christy did it out of self-defense, first and foremost. So I don't know why they were afraid. I don't know why they were afraid to go to Amanda about it, because it was self-defense. She had the poison to prove it. Second, what the heck is up with human casty powers? I mean, she had
the way she can sniff it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, that was ingenious. That was wonderful. And I thank God she had it, because you know what? I didn't want to lose her.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care how ambitious Treasure Doll was. I applaud Treasure Doll for being ambitious, but this was going too far. And if we had lost Christy, I would have been so freaking upset. I swear. Thirdly, where did Christy learn how to kick butt?
Oh, seriously. I mean, I know where Nicole, Munoz was learning. She was doing like these, I forget. She was doing some martial arts kind of training, but I don't know where Christy learned that stuff. But you know what? I think it's all maternal instinct. Like, who knows? Maybe every mother automatically knows how to do like insane street fighting. Right
now, you would think, oh, they just watched it on TV. A kick up here, a kick down there, aim for the balls, shit like that. But Christy did not grow up with television.
Yeah.
The only exposure she had to any kind of physical fighting was on the streets. And I don't think she got much of that. Well, maybe she did, but still, one doesn't pay much attention to that on the streets. You look away and walk, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Lonely Nerdette points out, Signora in the chat room, that she did have 2 brothers. Maybe she just learned by watching them. I don't know, but luckily it served her well. And then the parallel of her pushing at the end of the day, she just kind of pushed Treasure Doll out of the arch, out of this opening, which was just such a parallel to Stama pushing her, betrothed out of an airlock. I loved the parallel between the 2 of them.
And that was the other thing. Alak coming home to Christy in the tub.
Oh,
did you get chills?
Yes.
Okay, the reaction Alak had after that whole encounter, his face, his slack jaw, his staring, I was doing that same thing to the television.
Yeah, open mouth, like, I feel so bad for him. Well, at the end of the day, maybe he did think it was a turn on. Like, during the montage, he's clearly in the bath, and he's like, okay, I'm going to go with this. But the moment he realized that Christy is literally turning into Stama, I hope that next season they take these 2 and kind of, it's like not a mini Daytak and Stama, because Alak is not like Daytak at all.
Well, and then we hope he doesn't take that influence either, because he is kind of not worshiping, maybe respecting, but not quite. He's looking up to his father. Whether or not he likes his father, he's still looking up to this man as his father figure. And this is what he's going to turn out to be like if he continues to do so.
Right. I have a question. Did you or anyone in the chat room Christy clearly thought that Treasure Doll was her friend up until the point where she sniffed the poison juice. That's where I kind of had a moment of, okay, Christy, you're being this kind of badass on one front and, really emulating Stama, but yet on this other front, you can't see 2 feet in front of you to know that Treasure Doll is playing you.
Stama has the benefit of experience.
Yeah, okay, I can buy that. And Christy's like brand new kid off the block. That's true.
Not only is she brand new kid off the block, she was brought up in a rich household. A father who owns the mining company in the town of Defiance, which is a mining town, runs the town, not the mayor. He does. He's got everything he needs. He's the only one who had a full house on the hill, full with furnishings and multiple rooms. Everybody else is living in storage containers. Christy had an easy upbringing.
That's true. She's like a princess. She's like, someone who's not even familiar with the way the world goes. That makes me feel better about her not knowing up until the last minute.
But she's got the perfect role model to follow now. Somebody who will educate her in the way of the world.
Yeah, and I'm hoping Stama embraces that role. I mean, she just looks so pleased.
She has. She absolutely has. My question is what's going to happen when Pilar comes into town?
Ooh, the Pilar is not going to... If Pilar's intent is to want her family the way it was, so she wanted it intact, like she wants Rafe there, she is not going to be happy that Christy is... Especially if Pilar's been kind of tortured and in this horrible, place with the Votans all these past years, she's not going to be pleased that Christy, A, married into a Cassith family, is about to have a hybrid child and is emulating, a murderous Cassithan woman. Something I don't think Pilar and Stama are going to end on good terms.
Well, I don't know if it's Pilar and Stama, but it may be Pilar and Christy. I have a feeling that Pilar is going to pull the same shit she pulled the first time when she was left in Mendocino.
Ooh, that would be kind of... you mean the rat poison?
Yeah, I think...
Oh, God, what is it with this show and poison? You're right. It's like...
Well, but the other thing is if Pilar is smart and she's studied up on Votans while she was being imprisoned by them, which, if you're imprisoned by your enemy, you're going to study everything about your enemy until you know them inside and out. She's going to know that Christy can smell poison.
Yeah. Yeah, so that maybe she can't exactly use that. And I have to point this out in the chat room. Granties brings up the fact that does Pilar know that Luke is dead?
I'm
and
sure
who
Quentin,
knows?
I'm sure
You think Quentin told her?
Yeah.
And that's, that's probably good, because I would hate to have to watch her find out that he is dead. But, Quentin, I can see that. I can see Quentin spilling all of his guts, just everything to Pilar. So in that regard, Pilar probably knows that, but Quentin did not know that Christy married Alak, right? Like, he was gone before all that happened.
Well, but he knew that they were dating, remember?
Right.
Yeah, he left right before the marriage.
Okay. So maybe she does know that she was dating kind of Alak, but she doesn't know how far things have gone, Pilar.
So much has happened this episode and last episode. We got a setup of Treasure Doll moving in on Alak, and we found out that she's not going to give up on him at all up until the point of her murder. We find out that Christie's responsible for the murder, not Daytak, not Stama, not Alak, your usual suspects, but the other tar of the family that nobody ever discusses. We've killed Tennedy. We've had Amanda and Pottinger stuck into a shaft together, have a makeout session, and get rescued miraculously in the nick of time. We've had Nolan and Berlin come to grips with the fact that they shouldn't be together because they actually do love people. And we've had Nolan shunned by Amanda because Amanda is now falling for Pottinger. Then we've had Nolan try to save the world all by his lonesome. Well, okay, no. He kind of...
With Tommy a little bit.
Kind of, because Tommy was kind of I want to say a third wheel, but he was not the third person. You know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He's the tag-along because he was sick in front of Nolan, and then he had nothing else to do. It's like he woke up from the fog, realized he was standing in a field with Nolan, and was like, okay, I'm going to stick with you for a little while because I have no idea what the hell's going on right now.
Like, I just feel like I've like had I have a bad hangover and I need to be. It probably really was like Tommy woke up and he's in the middle of like The Hangover 4. He's like, what in the world is happening?
Exactly. And then so we got Nolan and Tommy creating a distraction in the town in the camp so that Tommy can set off, let's say, an EMP type device that sets off all the Kaziri victims and sets them right. And let's go from there. Yeah,
and then it apparently doesn't set off Arissa for long because so all the Votan disciples, everyone kind of passes out. Nolan, of course, grabs Arissa. He's like, that's his only concern. They're going to take her back to Defiance to figure out what's going on. But Arissa wakes up, crashes the car. Poor thing, stabs Tommy. Who knows what's going on with him? But this is where I'm confused because Urzu commands Arissa to kill Nolan, and Arissa says, no, we have an agreement, which I'm thinking she means Nolan and her agreement that they die together.
No. That whole scene was an insight to Arissa's mind, and the fact that she sees Irzu everywhere, and Irzu is commanding her to do all of these things, which is the Kaziri through Irzu. And we see her command her to commit murder on Nolan, to kill Nolan off.
Right.
And the reason why Amanda cannot do it is because she is honoring an agreement between her and the Kaziri. The Kaziri brought Nolan back.
Oh, right.
So that Arissa would work for her. So if she kills off Nolan, the bargain is off. Arissa's not going to work for the Kaziri. Now the sad
That's right.
thing
That was from the finale. That makes complete sense.
That was the bargain. Now the thing is the Kaziri taking over Arissa, or is Arissa following orders? Because if she's following orders, that brings all of her actions into question and her morality. She just knifed Tommy, and not because she was forced to, because she was told to.
That's where my confusion lies, and that's where I don't know. That's where this line is so blurry. And that's why that was so important, because to me, she decided not to do that. Like, she specifically said to her conscience, or whatever was going on, she said, nope, I'm not going to murder Nolan. Even though she just murdered Tommy, which either means she doesn't actually love Tommy, and that's a horrible way to let him know that. Or it's like what you said, that she literally just cannot do that to Nolan. Like, that would just corrupt the whole bargain.
Well, this is why I think this whole scene is important. Because I think it established the fact that Arissa is speaking from the heart when she's in the tent, is acting on behalf of the Kaziri, not unwillingly. I mean, there is some degree of unwillingness, but she's doing it to honor this bargain. She's doing the lesser of all evils.
And in some regard, she's just doing kind of what she was always meant to be doing. In some way, it kind of parallels. I like this whole adoption kind of story, and I mean, I'm not adopted. I'm not speaking to adoption, but I just like the way it parallels any child or anyone who's kind of on their own path And she was set up, poor Arissa, like she's been set up from birth that this is, her parents were in that cult. She had the Kazari planted in her. Like she's just going kind of along this predestined path. And then Nolan's just kind of this crimp in her plans that she wasn't expecting. And so she's trying to configure the two, so to speak.
And I think it was just coincidence that it worked out that way. Or that was the plan, was that it was coincidental. But, it's really, really hard to see that because it's just working out so well. I mean, the Nolan is stopping the Kazari every turn only because he exists.
Which is so cool. I mean, that to me is like, talk about I think, therefore I am. Like, I saved the world just because I'm here.
Yeah,
like,
don't tell him that. Just don't tell him that because that'll just implode his ego.
Yeah, talk about big ego. But now okay, so the grid and the Gulani, the grid, the loci, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, that's going on in the game, because that's another form of arc brain. This has to tie into what Arissa's doing, or I hope it does in some way.
If it does, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I hope it eventually does, because in the game there's this like extra. I won't go into it too much, but it just looks the same with the tendrils, and it's another arc brain that's coming about. So we could be seeing all this from a couple of fronts.
Yeah, I don't know where the stories tie in yet. There's similar situations going on, but the grid seemed like a creation or an after effect of this alter ego. So we'll discover more about that later. Right now, the Defiance game has not had an update that's tying in with the series. I'm anticipating something this week, but no word has come out yet. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Now, what other speculations and unanswered questions have we gotten from these two episodes?
Well, I think I'm going to kind of tie my speculations into predictions a little bit because I still am confused as to Christie's motives. She took that microphone, she hid it under, I'm guessing, the bed that she shares with Alak. Was her intention to get rid of it, or was her intention to actually frame Alak and have him go to jail? Because that would be pretty badass if that were the case.
And you know what? It's ambiguous. She could probably say, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I meant to do, when it really wasn't.
Yeah.
But it would be great if she really was channeling Stama that much that she's punishing Alak through other people by putting him into jail and making him realize what was going on. What was he missing? And standing on the other side of the bars and saying, I don't believe you did this, but you disappointed me.
Right. And she was in that position of power. It put her in a position of power, which is kind of awesome.
But there's also the fact that we don't know if they share the same bed or if they have separate rooms. We don't know that much about the Cassiston relationship yet.
That's true. We only know so much about their bath rituals. We don't know actually bedroom rituals.
And that might be the case, is where their rooms are always separate. And if it's such a hierarchy where the men rule and the women are subjugated the way that they are now, it would stand to reason that they share separate rooms.
That's true. Maybe eventually we'll see Stama and Christy sharing a room, be like sleepovers.
So it may be that she was just hiding it under her own bed, and everybody automatically assumes it was Alak, or it could have been she physically hid it under Alak's bed to prove a point to him.
I guarantee we'll never know, and it's going to be something that is just a question that I love to think about. But then also tying into this, at the end of the episode, I really liked the way that they made Amanda. Amanda knew what was happening this entire time. She knew Stama was behind, kind of setting up their new handmaiden's father in order to, him confess to the murder. She knew something wasn't right. And then at the end, she shows up at the Tar's house. She's kind of watching. She sees how they're all happy in their new situation. They got away with murder. And I think that that's going to make her start thinking that, and putting two and two together, and she's going to realize that maybe Stama had something to do with Kenya's death. That's like a prediction of mine.
Okay, yeah, I can see that analysis, but I thought you were going somewhere entirely different with that, and that was, I was going to say that the situation that Stama created, in which the Votan came up and presented evidence that was irrefutable and admitted to the crime, Amanda could not go and confront the Tars any longer without solid evidence that trumps what was given to her. So all she could do was stand in the shadows and watch.
Right.
So, yeah, having her stand there, watch, and come to the realization that Stama was possibly responsible for Kenya's death, if Amanda hadn't thought of it ages ago,
Yeah.
I would have been very disappointed in Amanda's investigative skills.
We'll see what happens. I loved that they had Amanda kind of, poor Amanda. She's basically got nothing right now. Watching this happy moment with them, and she's just like, gosh darn it, like, I know exactly what happened here, and I can't prove it. It's just perfect.
So, predictions. I've already made one in the middle of the show, although I can't remember what it was.
You've made so many. I mean, you've made a ton as we've gone along here. My big one it's not going to happen, but I could just kind of like, maybe I have Battlestar Galactica envy, but I keep thinking like we end the season with Earth being completely destroyed, and season 3 will take place on the Kaziri in space, and all the humans that we know and love will have infiltrated it so that they can be on the Kaziri as well. I mean, that clearly will not happen, but it would be a lot of fun.
Well, you're channeling Chris, and I'm proud of you for doing it, because
Woo!
Chris always had these off-the-wall theories, and he did it because it was fun, because it would have been awesome if they actually happened, and because it's science fiction. It could happen.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a great prediction. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's fabulous. That's a branch, a possibility that could happen and is plausible. Now, why do you have Battlestar envy? I'm curious.
Well, I don't want the whole God part to go the way of Battlestar, but
It's sci-fi.
Battlestar.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, well, of course, it's gonna happen. Like the God is the machine kind of thing. But I just like the idea of. I mean, they've done such a great job of setting up this science fiction show on Earth, which is really cool, and they've done a great job. Sometimes I just like to see things in space, or to have this notion that we're not on Earth.
I'm waiting to see some of that arc belt up in space. I really want to see something up there.
Or like even flashbacks, like if in season 3 they go back to kind of, the Votan planets and we see life there. That would be so cool. I would like to do that.
You know what would be really, really awesome? Is there was a 9th Votan race that nobody has discussed up until this point that caused the sun to explode and devour the rest of the planets, find its way to our solar system, and try to attempt to do the same thing.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Now
that's like season 6 of Defiance. Basically.
That's taking sci-fi out there.
Yeah.
That's where the show should go. There's all these petty squabbles that everybody's doing while Nolan is trying to save the world. And then Nolan's petty squabbles trying to save the world when there's this huge 9th race going to destroy the solar system and nobody knows about it. I mean, come on. That puts everything to shame. That's awesome.
It really would. I love how we see our predictions. We've just taken them to the next level. And so there's just nothing that can top that. As far as like my episode MVP, we've talked it to death, but I really liked Amanda in the doll parts episode. She really rocked it. So that's my MVP. And she had scenes with everyone, including Daytak, which was really awesome to see them act opposite each other.
Daytak walking in, and Amanda's going through his stuff, and she's like, what do you want? Other than to rifle through my undergarments. I thought that's awesome. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and when he said, what are you going to do next? Pantomime in the streets? Like, it was so funny.
Yeah, that scene was actually it was quality, that was humorous. Remember how we said that first episode didn't have very much humor? This one made up for it. It had a lot of subtlety to it that was great. Although there was a lot of things that overshadowed it, like, well, everything that was going on, really.
Right, all the actual drama, yeah.
Oh, you know what? We didn't talk about Alethea.
Oh, wow. Okay, it took me a minute to even process what was happening.
They had to name drop her. That's how we all knew. And you know what? I wouldn't have known otherwise. But you know what? It's fantastic that they brought somebody in game.
Really cool. And I hope that what's cool about it is they drop her name, they put her in game. She's kind of, you can tell, like, even if we don't talk much about her, you can tell she knows what she's doing. She's been around the block. And I hope that now, since she's one of the resurrected village people, that now we'll see her in, like, the next couple of episodes, even if she's just in the background. Yeah,
I mean, I'd love to have her as a recurring character. Or, you know what? Make some webisodes, even if they're made out of Flash. Do a motion comic based on the adventures of Alethea. Whoever is running her character in-game right now, you are so lucky. Because if you can have any kind of merchandise relating to your character, you can be like, oh my god, that's me. You know?
Yeah.
It's just awesome. So, Alethea was awesome. I loved the fact that she was in there. I want more of her because it was left empty. It was 20 seconds of her on screen at max, and that was it.
It was completely open-ended too, though.
And Sukar was totally badass this episode, if not a little forceful. And again, you have to wonder, is it the Kaziri talking? I don't think so. And Sukar is another reason why I believe she cannot force you to do anything. You just follow her. And that is because he is a religious man. If he is seeing Irzu, he believes Irzu.
Right, and he's the one that kind of set up that whole kind of thought process, or the way that Orisa experiences her is kind of the way that Sukar experiences her. So it's just maybe her struggle between two dads at some, on some level.
It really is set in my mind that Kaziri cannot force your hand. Cannot. Orisa tried to kill herself and she couldn't. I don't think that was the Kaziri. I think that was her.
That's the way to end the season. Like, that's a way that they can get out of the destruction of the planet, basically, in the finale.
This gives her leeway to fight what she's got in her. This gives her the ability to fight her off. I don't believe that the Kaziri can force her hand. I believe that Orisa is doing everything she is told because it either saves lives in the end or because she really doesn't feel like she has an option. So I don't know.
That, to me, is more believable. I know it's science fiction, but science fiction is successful when it plays upon, like, actual human tropes. And so what you've laid out, to me, is more acceptable and believable as science fiction than to have this kind of, all-being God machine.
Right. Well, one of the frequent movies they've been showing on the Sci-Fi Channel right before Defiance is actually The Matrix. Talk about being religious sci-fi. And in there is the same concept. The system cannot control you. It only provides an illusion for you. In the end, you have the power to ignore that illusion and become free. And I believe that that's the same thing with the Kaziri.
Right.
That's just my take on that. What other predictions do you have?
I do think that Pilar is really going to stir up some trouble. You don't have Linda Hamilton on your show if she's not going to stir up some trouble. And that she might really try to take her family back, and maybe at the expense of the Tar. So I think that Daytak and Stama are going to be in a little bit of danger that they probably don't see coming because of Pilar. We'll see.
I'd love to think that Linda Hamilton, a.k.a. Sarah Connor, will stir up some shit. But I think that maybe she's just there to stir up some personal family drama and not necessarily to save the world, which is going to make me disappointed.
I do think that Amanda's very pragmatic. She had that moment with Pottinger in the mines, and I think it's going to come between her and Nolan because she's going to want to save Defiance, and from her perspective, she's going to have to get rid of Orisa, and that's going to put her in direct conflict with Nolan, and I want to see that play out between the two of them.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something that's going to be important in the end. I mean, I think that everything that Pottinger is doing right now is going to be invalidated at the season finale because it's not important. And I say that while enjoying the personal conflict and dramas of the people of Defiance because that's what builds stories, is the characters. Right. But there is such an overall situation that is going on that's going to belittle every situation that has happened since.
Yeah.
So I don't think that anything that Pottinger's doing right now is important to me.
Which, at the end of the day, I mean, I love Jim Murray. He's playing this character so well. But at the end of the day, I would just rather have Viceroy Mikado, play that role and just kind of get rid of Pottinger. If he's not going to be more interesting, then I'm kind of done with him as a character. So hopefully Amanda and Nolan will have conflict, and then they'll all figure it out, and everyone will live happily ever after.
Well, hopefully.
Wait, you had an MVP this episode.
Yes. Yes, I do.
It's probably everyone's MVP.
You think so?
Yeah, I think if we took a poll, everyone would be right with you.
Okay. I'm going to have chat room tell me who their MVP is, and I'm going to let you go first so that when chat room's done, we'll see if everybody else had that same MVP.
Yeah. So my MVP for the episode of Dull Parts, this was what sold it up for me, was Amanda, because the way she played this entire episode, it was just, I was so happy to see her back to being this type A nerd that I just thought she did it so well. Every single scene with Nolan, Berlin, Daytak, Treasure Doll, she was on top of her A game once again. Even when she's giving horrible advice, she was still like her usual bossy self.
Yeah.
And I like having Amanda back, so she was my MVP.
You're absolutely right. Amanda felt like old Amanda. Amanda who wore the braid of justice and honored it.
That's right.
Not current Amanda, who's gone in and out of drugs very easily, I might add. Fallen in and out of shafts and in love, and it just...
This was more true to who she was, so I loved it.
Chat room is saying Tommy and Stama.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's not what I... Okay, all right, good.
My MVP, and this is hard because across the 2 episodes, there's been some great characters. Rafe. Rafe has been a family man and has proven it in this episode. And you know what? It was believable that he was acting like a father.
Oh.
Nolan, who has switched on a dime from being a smug asshole to, I have to do the right thing, I have to fight for my daughter, and I have to save the world because this is not going to happen. This is terrible. Of course, there's Stama. Stama always being true to herself. Amanda, you made a valid point for Amanda. Alak for standing up. Well, okay, no. I take Alak back. I'm not too proud of Alak. Sukar was wonderful. Now, the person that I want to give the MVP to is Christy McCauley.
Yes.
Okay, because Christy has been absent for episodes and episodes. And when she comes back, she tells us her true feelings. She defends herself, her husband's honor, and her child. She fights off a skank and throws her off the arch.
True.
She finds a way through all of this to keep it secret, to keep a straight face when she finds out the news, and to frame Alak for it just so that he would get a taste of imprisonment and shame. And then at the very end, the last scene where she is in the tub, speaking perfect Casty, acting like the perfect Casty wife, as if she was never human, she gets MVP.
Yeah, the last scene with her in the tub was just... Because the last time we saw her in bath beads, she was like completely terrified. And now she's perfectly at ease.
Exactly. And she wants her husband to come into the tub with her because, you know, it's unseeming for a Casty wife to be in the tub alone. So, yeah, she's emulating Sama very well, and it's a wonderful thing. Now, it was tough because I was going for Nolan. Nolan was about to save the world, failed at it, and was trying to rescue Tommy. After all the shit he did to Tommy, he was still going to save that boy's life.
Yeah, which is probably why he's dragging him. He's so intent on dragging him back to Defiance in the first place, because he did come to terms with Tommy.
So Tommy does get the shit end of the stick, but I still don't think that he's MVP quality because a lot of other performances have outshined him this episode. So he will get his day, I promise.
Off the set.
Favorite tweets?
I'll read through them quickly. As always, there are so many, so just take these with a grain of salt. But I got a little bit of West Coast and East Coast going on here. So Bias, the Botanophiles, has, Tommy, you are a precious little trusting lamb, which is just so true of Tommy in this episode. I just wanted to kind of put him in my pocket and cuddle him and keep him safe.
Now that's a question. That's a question for our audience. Tommy or Christy, who is the more naive?
Oh, Tommy. I mean, that's we'll see what chat room says. Tommy all the way. He was so nice. Tommy didn't have anyone to learn from, so Christy's had Stama to learn from.
That's not true. Tommy was raised in the streets. He was in a gang. That's
true. He did have a rough upbringing, and it was only when the first lawkeeper took him in that he, came to Defiance and started to settle down.
He has had a hard knock life, and from the beginning, started off orphaned in a gang on the streets. Somebody took him in, and that person ended up dead. And it just goes on downhill from there. It's just, Tommy is almost cursed, and I feel sorry for the kid.
maybe he is actually cursed. I mean, this is like I'm creating so many like plot lines for Tommy in these last 2 episodes, but he's like the one cursed human. Poor guy. He and Rafe are generally like cursed.
Well, Rafe is always trying to do good for his family, so Rafe I don't see anything wrong with. But he's got a string of bad luck. You're right. Or his family's just rotten.
I had to include one from Trina Keating because I just had to. She says, "I can't believe Berlin found the shaft. Shocking." It was just funny just because she knows Anna Hopkins, so I'm sure that was funny, and it's just a play on words. So
Trina Keating and Anna Hopkins and Julie Benz and Jamie Murray. The 4 of them on Twitter. Oh my God. The show cannot have the best 4 actresses on earth. No better. They're awesome.
Their banter is hilarious. And then adding in my 5th favorite women of Defiance. No, I'm just playing. Tommy Leva says, "Oh, it's annoying when you're giving an employee advice and you accidentally send her on a Glenn Close Fatal Attraction bender," which is totally what you said, Ben. Like, you completely made the connection between Fatal Attraction and Poor Treasure Doll, which is, I guess, exactly what they were going for. And then Carly Coe says, "Those tar mothers, they'll do anything for their children," which, yeah, I guess we know that for sure now after Christy.
Is it tar women or is it casty women? If it's tar women, wow. If it's casty women, well, that's normal.
I don't know. It might be, well, who knows? Our only, real angle into the cast at the moment is Stama. I'm not sure she's like the best example. It seems like she's breaking down barriers more so than other casty women.
And then Daco Guyver.
Yeah, this made me laugh. He's so funny. He's just like, you've been to a good party when you throw up living metal, which is just that he's got a point. Like, Tommy was having a serious hangover there. Like, he must have done something really fun to be throwing up metal. It just made me laugh because he's a funny guy.
More meanings than one, Throwing up metal makes you think you're throwing up metal bands,
Oh, yeah, heavy metal. Yeah, there's so many connections. And then Death to Dickens had some Defiance greeting cards, and you just have to go to her Twitter feed because there's way more than one. She, was working overtime, and they were all incredibly funny. Every single.
I missed that. Otherwise, I would have had some of the greeting cards up because I did love some of her greeting cards, especially the one to her drinking buddies. That was...
Yes, the Scotch Amanda card. There were a ton of every, occasion that you could imagine. I'm sure one day she'll actually publish them as greeting cards, but for now you can go on her Twitter feed and check them out. They're really funny.
I'm raising my whiskey glass to her right now because those are awesome, and I'm totally going to buy Prince if she sets that up. So coming up next week on Defiance, another back-to-back doubleheader. All Things Must Pass and I Almost Prayed. There is a sneak peek for episode 12, but not for episode 13, and you can always see these sneak peeks on YouTube. But for everybody's sake, I'm going to play the sneak peek to episode 12 because you know what? It is so freaking awesome. So, here we go.
She sounded scared. Marissa would only be scared of him if she knew he could stop her. Somehow the 2 of them are linked.
Masha.
It's time to seize the ship. Remove the keys.
One for each of us.
Kazarian will be harmless so long as we remain apart.
Once we do this,
We can never again be together.
Holy crap.
Holy mother.
How awesome is that sneak peek? I mean, that's 3 minutes of next week's episode, and it's heavy CGI. It's all flashback. It's taking place in about 800 BC, or as people are saying in the chat room, BCE or BCI. I don't remember which one, but it's not ancient. It's not before we're cavemen, but we're established on this planet, and this Kaziri is coming down, and you see Orisa, and you see, gosh, I can't remember his name, but you see
It was Kai. I don't remember his name on the ship. I know it was Kai. Like Kai is like the parallel to Orisa, I believe.
Right. Okay. So you see Orisa and you see Kai, and they've decided to hijack the ship by killing the ship's pilots. Now, first question: what the heck are those pilots?
Right. They're like some AI. They almost look Indigene Votan, but they're just kind of like the jellyfish version of the Ghost Jasper version.
They kind of look like our ego in game, except they're tendrilled into the base of the ship, which, if that round disc thing with the hexagonal tiles moving up and down, much like the Indigene skin, is the computer, that thing is freaking cool.
Yeah. Talk about drive.
But slicing them off of the computer like that and having them fall over like they died, once looks like they're cutting off their life support, their power, and that they're a physical entity, not a holograph, which is what?
Yeah, that was a little weird. I didn't know if that was just like kind of an effect thing that they were going for, or if they just didn't want them to kind of disappear, or kind of. I wasn't sure why they ended up dying the way they did, because to me they were just kind of like artificial intelligence. They were just like a part of the computer program.
To me, what I think from everything that I know about Defiance and the ARC ships and what's going on, the Kaziri was designed by the Indigene, and that those two beings that fell after being cut from the computer are Indigene hosts to both sides of the Kaziri. And they're both piloting the ship, and they're tied into the system. So if they cut the cords, maybe it's a life support system, and those Indigene immediately fall dead. Because one, Indigene will not survive a trip that long without some kind of life support. They would be ancient.
Yeah.
So it's got to be some kind of undead AI host body thing. I don't know. I want to know more about that. That was freaky. The other thing that we saw was the Kaziri ship. Notice how it looks much like the Kaziri itself, with the interloping weaves and knots and tendrils, and it was a beautiful ship. It was teardrop shaped and reminded me a heck of a lot of the Millennium Falcon as it was falling to Earth. And we see Orisa and Kai take on the Kaziri and separate. We also see a whole bunch of those pods land and seed the Earth. Now, I don't know if those pods were Votans or what, because we've had no Votans until the Arcs came, and that's been established since Season 1. The Arcs came, and the Votans came with it, and the war started because there was no peace.
So, yeah, you're right. We don't know exactly what those pods were, but we do know that Orisa kind of fell to Earth. Kai, fell to Earth. And now their counterparts look basically identical to them. So were the pods that were falling out, because they were just kind of floating pieces of light when we actually saw them in the ship before they started to fall out. I assume that's what was falling out. Does this mean that Birdie is like reincarnated from what she looked like in the ship? I was just very confused by that notion. Or are they just harvesting whoever they can right now to power the ship?
That is the question. That is the one thing that is hard to understand. Unless all Votans are clones of each other, how Orisa and Kai are clones from their counterparts, which, thanks to Lonely Nerdette in the chat, has named Ori and Prima. Or Prima. I don't know which. Ori and Prima are the two Votans on the ship, and who are taking the Kaziri and separating, and have become Orisa and Kai currently. How did that happen? Are they immortal? Because we've seen Orisa small.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, and how does the Kaziri pass from one to the next? I mean, Kai doesn't have the Kaziri any longer. Orisa already had one in her. But, well, okay, we did see the Kaziri being put into Orisa. So there's a lot of questions. That scene is badass. Next week should prove to be awesome.
Yeah, we will have so much to discuss, and I'm sure they're going to leave us hanging in some regards. But I think as far as the Kaziri, we'll have all of our answers, or a lot of them at least.
All right, so let's go ahead and do our coupon codes.
So you can, we've got a couple of coupon codes for you. First is for Doghouse Systems. You can use the coupon code MMO Reporter at doghousesystems.com to double your RAM. So make sure you do that. And then the second is for Audible, audible.com. So you can get your coupon code by going to audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter, and there you can get your first month free.
And I'm hoping that Defiance has some novels pretty soon.
Oh, and you've come up with like 3 different novella series that they could do.
Yeah, we need to just hire an author and have them put on the task. R.A. Salvador is who I nominate, or John Scalzi, or whoever wrote Robopocalypse. I cannot remember his name.
They've got time. They can tell.
Or James S.A. Corey, whom is getting his own show on Sci-Fi, or their show. James S.A. Corey is actually 2 authors, not 1. So, audible.com. Give it a try. Get your first month free using MMO Reporter. Last minute announcements. This week's Arc Hunter codes. We've got 2 of them. And at first they didn't work, but they are working now, I assure you. The first one is Boost, B-O-O-S-T, and the second one is Hunter, Hunter. Now make sure to enter them at defiance.com/ego to get this week's rewards. Boost provides you with some 2-hour boosts. And there's 5 of them, I believe. And they boost your XP gain, your script gain, all of that kind of stuff. You claim them. They don't start until you actually claim them from your storage, so get them. They are useful, but get them and redeem them before you plan on playing for 2 hours or longer, because that's when they're most beneficial. And Hunter provides you with a new in-game title. I'm not too happy with this title, but I'll let you discover what that title is when you enter in the code. Again, make sure to redeem them at defiance.com/ego, and make sure they are redeemed by Saturday, August 30th, when they expire. And then secondly, join Defiance Reporter's PC clan Igni Farouk. No registration is required. Just look for me in-game, Corso Van Locke, and I'll make sure to send you an invite. Also, that should be true shortly in the Xbox 360 version when that game goes free to play. So, finally, Michelle, there are a number of ways to contact us. Can you let everybody know how they can do that?
Yes, and we want to hear your theories for how this series is going to end, this finale. But you can contact us a number of ways. You can email us at defiance@mmoreporter.com, or you can check us out on our website at defiancereporter.com. You can leave us a voicemail at 616-666-6778, or you can just click the right-hand widget on the right-hand side of the page when you visit the website. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Defiance Reporter. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/user/MMO Reporter Network. And we're on Twitter, a number of Twitter handles. You can find us at twitter.com/Defiance Podcast or at Defiance Podcast. You can find me, Michelle, at twitter.com/Women of Defiance, or you can find Ben at twitter.com/NebsInsane. It's Nebs, insane. And you can also find Ben all the time on the at Defiance Podcast feed.
Yeah, I tend to live on that one. So, Michelle, thanks. It was a long episode, but man, we had 2 episodes to talk about, and they were... okay, the second one was awesome.
Yeah, they averaged to be awesome.
Thanks for joining me this week and every week ever since. I enjoy your company and your discussion.
Same here. Thank you, Ben, and thank you, chat room. All of you loyal listeners.
Yeah, chat room, you provide us with such insight. You frequently correct me on my fact-checking, so I appreciate that as well. And thanks to all of you who listen at home, who download us week after week. I sincerely thank you. So does Michelle. If it wasn't for you, we'd have no audience. So thank you for dialing at us week after week, and I hope that you continue to do so. You continue to watch the show, and that hopefully one day I see you in game.